Joe, you aren't afraid to sit in the front, are you? Yeah. He was thirsty.
But then,
No, he's
Brock
delivering.
got 3 of them there. He was really thirsty.
He's delivering.
here's your.
All right, I've got 5:30. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving right along here, we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda, consideration and approval of the agenda.
I have one proposal, which would be to bump up 7.1 in the to before the presentation for the audit, for the event that Mr. Anderson wants to take off. I guess that his piece might be a little bit shorter than the audit presentation. So,
Any additional additions or corrections?
For consideration under new business, 8.3, discussion on road reconstruction projects. And for consideration, 8.4, crosswalks and vulnerable roadway users.
Crosswalks.
What was 8.3 again, Dan?
3 was,
Road reconstruction.
Discussion on road reconstruction project.
I guess are we gonna need Mr. Anderson for those discussions?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. It's mostly all follow-up stuff.
all right, are there any additional additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the move of 7.1 up above 5.1 under presentations, and the addition of 8.3 road reconstruction projects discussion, and 8.4 crosswalks and vulnerable road users discussion.
So I'll make that motion just with the clarification that 7.1 would become 5.0, just so that's before 5.1.
Perfect. We have a motion from Mr. Palmer. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dan. Any further conversation? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, next up, we will have public forum. This is an opportunity for citizens to present items to the council that are not on the agenda. Each presentation is limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 15 minutes set aside. If your item needs follow-up from the city, staff will arrange for that. If you'd like to speak for public forum, please make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and council will hear your concern.
Hey, I'm Joe Kirchberg. I live at 460 7th Avenue Northeast in Pine City. And I'm here just to bring something up to the council for their consideration. If everybody knows where Meadow Ridge townhomes are, I don't know, are you?
Yes.
Anyway, there's 42 townhomes there. On the east end of the townhome, there's a park. And it's sometimes designated Meadow Ridge Park, but there seems to be an issue as to who actually owns that park. I was under the impression for a long time that Meadow Ridge owned it, and the city had agreed to mow and maintain. But so I went, because of liability concerns, I went to find out who actually owns it. And I've been working on it for about 4 months and talking to every office at the county, and nobody can clearly tell me who owns it.
Huh.
Now we have no problem with the city taking it. That's not the issue. But the city's been mowing it and maintaining it for many years. They put a sign up saying it was a park. They listed on the website as a city park. I went to see Lisa when I first had the issue, and she said, yeah, it's a city park. So I told her what problems I was having, and so she looked it up and she said, maybe not. She said, we don't insure it. Listen, you insure all the other parks, but you don't insure that one. So I guess what I'm hoping the city will do is take possession of that. I really think, and I've got some information, I'm gonna leave it here with her, but I think that it was never deeded back in 1998. That's what I think, because we have some information that show that the intent was to give it to the city for, I can't remember how they stated it, but for continuous use, hereby dedicated to the public for use forever on the, that's what they're suggesting. But there's no official paperwork. And I really think it's important that we do that, because our association doesn't insure it because we thought it was the city's. The city doesn't insure it because they don't have it listed. So anyway, I just would like the council to look into this something, and I'll give you the information. And I think I talked to one attorney and he said it should be very easy to do if the city wants it. Now, they put up a sign at one time saying it was a city park, but they took it down when we came across this dilemma. So if the city wants it, I'd really like to see them let us know, and we'll get together and get this taken care of. That's it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Are you the contact person for the
Yeah,
association?
I would be, yeah.
Are we supposed to ask questions during the public forum?
No.
No, I know we are.
Yeah, and I don't expect you to make any decisions here, but just, I think she suggested that I come here and bring it up. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good.
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good job, Joe.
Well,
Thanks,
thank
Joe.
you.
Investigator.
Oh, they're nuts.
All right, this is still public forum. If anybody else would like to step forward to public forum, please make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and council will hear your concerns. I will ask a second time if anybody else would like to step forward to the public forum. And I will ask a third and final time if anybody would like to step forward to public forum. Hearing none, we will move on to presentations. Item number 5.0. This would be Mr. Anderson, 8th Avenue sidewalk application for payment 2.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you, Councilmember Palmer, for thinking of my evening. I love a good audit. I love sitting through audit presentations, Greg, but I take the opportunity to skip this one. In your packet tonight is pay application number 2 for the 8th Avenue sidewalk and railroad crossing. Everything is done. The project is complete. This is the final items. If you look at the back page, we're still holding about $7,400 in retainage until the grass grows, and they have a few minor things to address on the flasher and basically making sure the grass grows before we let go of that last $7,400 in retainage. So I'd be looking for approval of pay application 2 in the amount of $28,487.37. And just a quick update, we had some issues with the parking lot at Pine Auto and the contractor's use of it outside of the right of way and a few other things. And we've come to the contractors this morning come around to agree to cover the cost. So we should be able to make the auto guy happy, city happy, and we'll get the grass to grow working with Jason. And I walked back and forth and pushed the button tonight. I kind of like it. Not everybody stopped though, but be careful. So
Yeah. Well,
any questions?
Well, thank you for working with the auto body there, getting that taken care of.
Yeah, the contractor come around and Marcy with the help on that too. So yeah, it was probably a miscommunication at the end of the day, but they agreed to, and we'll just work through that on the retainage and the final payout.
Thank you, Greg.
I make a motion to approve the payment for 8th Avenue sidewalk, number 2 payment.
Right, I've got a motion by Mr. Swanson to approve application for payment number 2. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Palmer. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, next up, we will move on to item number 5.1, the 2025 audit presentation from Mr. Burkhart.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. That was much quicker than my report, so certainly don't mind stepping back in line for something that fast. All right. Well, my name is Greg Burkhart, as Mayor mentioned. I represent the firm that performed the financial audit for the city of Pine City, and tonight is a culmination of that work. So what I'd like to do is talk to the council about our audit procedures, help describe and provide some clarity on what we do, why we do it. We'll discuss the different responsibilities that are held with financial reporting. There are a number of things, professional standards require I communicate to governance. I'll do that. And then I'll finalize this presentation with a brief overview of the financial condition of the city. Okay, so everyone should have my handouts, and I'll just kind of follow along on these slides. They're up here on the screen as well. So we'll get started on the very first page, slide number 2. That page you see there describes the responsibilities held during financial reporting. And the left-hand side, those are management's responsibilities. And there are several listed there. And really what the takeaway message on that information is that management, Marcy and her team, are responsible for all things financial. Responsible to maintain accurate records and to adjust the accounts to their appropriate year-end balances. Okay, that responsibility also includes ensuring that there are proper policies in place. Make sure that your assets are safeguarded and that any errors that are present in your financial records are corrected timely. Okay, your audit firm's responsibilities on the right-hand side there are really, they revolve around the different reports that we provide during the audit. We provide a financial opinion. We look at the numbers that are reported to us. We gather evidence and we attempt to determine, are they accurately and fairly stated? Okay. We also provide a report on your policies and procedures. Sometimes hear us refer to that as internal controls. Okay. We evaluate the city's policies based on the facts and circumstances you find yourselves in throughout the year, and we attempt to determine, are they appropriate? Is there anything missing? The policies that are in place, are they operating the way that you intend those? If we find something missing or something that doesn't quite operate the way that it ought to, we have a report that describes what we find with recommendations to improve upon those. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, we also report on the city's compliance with Minnesota law. All right, so the state auditor requires all governments, whether you're a township, a county, or a city, to be evaluated against 7 broad categories of compliance. And we spend an awful lot of time during the audit evaluating checklists and looking at bills. We look at all the records that the city maintains. We communicate with external parties to attempt to determine, has the city complied with all of these 7 different categories? If we come across something that suggests the city did not, we report on it and we provide a recommendation to ensure that there isn't a reoccurrence in the future. Okay. We move over to page number 2, slide 3. The information on this slide will summarize the audit results for the year. Okay, so starting from left to right under financial opinion, my firm has issued the city an unmodified audit. That's exactly what you want to hear. That is your clean audit opinion. So the numbers provided to us and those numbers that you find in your financial statement are backed by audit evidence. We can support all of those. We have evidence to support every number that's shown in there. And those are numbers that you folks can rely on to make decisions in the future. Okay. The middle section on slide 3 describes our reporting on your internal controls, or again, those policies and procedures. And we did come across one area that could use some improvement. Sometimes you hear those referred to as findings, but I like to call them limitations. Doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong, but if you were to improve upon this one section, it would give you stronger financial reporting. And we have described this as material audit adjustments. There were certain corrections that we needed to make to your records There's an awful lot of adjustments that are needed throughout the year, but there were a handful that exceeded certain thresholds, dollar amount thresholds that we place in the audit annually. And because of that, we do have to report that you have a limitation in that responsibility. Okay, our recommendation there is to look at our journal entries, especially evaluate the ones that are considered material, and attempt to process those adjustments in-house if you are able. Okay, and then on the right-hand side under compliance findings, I'm thrilled to report the city came through the compliance work that we did with flying colors. We did not come across one instance that caused us to believe that the city did not comply with all of those different requirements that the state puts on cities. And I will say this, if you were to ask me, Greg, what do you think is the best result this year? I would probably say that is your best result. You don't come through a compliance audit on accident. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of understanding what these laws are, and job well done. Be very proud of that result. Okay, moving on to the next slide, bottom of page 2, slide number 4. This slide contains some information that professional standards require I communicate to governance. I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time on any of this information on this slide. I would encourage the council to review a report that we also provided. It's called a management letter. It's going to go over this information in much greater detail than I have time allotted to this evening. But I do want to point out a couple of things on this page. The very first section there under auditor assurance, you can see it reads that we provide reasonable but not absolute assurance. So the audit standards require that we sample invoices, we look at bills. We don't look at every check. We just simply don't have that kind of time. But we can provide you reasonable but not 100% assurance. So really the takeaway message there is there are no guarantees. So I would ask the council to continue to maintain your active involvement in the financial affairs of the city. And then finally, the fourth section down there under misstatements, we did propose 24 journal entries, which is down from last year substantially. Last year there were 41 journal entries. This year there were 24. The records were very clean. However, we did have 4 that exceeded that dollar threshold that I mentioned earlier this year, and I anticipate that not being the case in the future. I spoke with Marcy and her team, and I think they got a pretty good understanding of what caused those. So let's hope we can get that eliminated next year. Okay. All right. So moving forward here on page 3, what I'd like to do now is transition to a conversation about the financial condition of the city. Okay. And in order to do that, what I'd like to do is step back in time a couple of years. Let's take a look at where was the city a handful of years ago. We're going to evaluate where you are today, and hopefully that gives us some ideas and clues on where you're going to find yourselves in the near future. Okay, so if we look at slide number 6, the bottom of page 3, the information you see on this slide describes the city's cash and investment balances over the previous 5 years. Okay, and so what I've done is I've taken the city and I've separated it out into 2 broad categories. The first one is what I refer to as your governmental activities. That is your general fund, your EDA, your HRA, your debt service funds, all governmental activities essentially. And that's represented by that blue series. Okay, so as I look at those, what you can see is that from 2022 through the end of 2025, there's been a substantial increase in your cash and investment balances, approximately $4.2 million. Okay, and there was a sizable increase from 24 into the end of 25. A lot of that relates to some bond proceeds that the city, or a bond that the city issued in 2025 that hadn't yet been spent at year end. It's very likely that much of that has been spent as it is today. But that really describes kind of the change in those cash balances that you've had over the previous 5 years. The other category that I show there is referred to as business type activities. That is your water, your sewer, and your municipal liquor store. That is represented by the orange series. And as I look at the business type activities, what we see is a very significant drop down from 22 into 23. That related to an interfund loan that your water and sewer fund made to the governmental activities, $2.5 million. Since that action in 23, your business type activities have maintained some fairly steady cash and investment balances. Okay, The reserves of the city are described in the table at the bottom of the slide. We call it days of reserves. So what we've done, you know, the city of Pine City has approximately $12 million of cash and investments, and that's like an awful lot. How much is that really as it relates back to the city? Well, that table at the bottom of slide 6 attempts to answer that question. So what we've done is we've taken your year-end cash balances and we've divided those by your average annual expenses and multiply that by 365. And what that does is that converts those year-end cash balances into how many days can the city operate under average conditions. As we all know, there isn't anything average in government. Your expenditures, they go up, they go down. It can be a seasonal sort of thing. It can be from quarter to quarter, but it's a really good measuring stick to say, okay, how much reserve do we have? So if we just focus on the column that represents 2025, you can see that the governmental activities, that blue line has 477 days of reserves, approximately 16 months. And that's right in the wheelhouse of what we see with other cities of your size and structure. Usually it's between 12 to 15 months. So you're just ahead of what we typically see. Your business type activities are doing quite well as well. They're at 472 days, which again is approximately 16 months. However, those business type activities exceed what we see with other communities of your size. Usually those reserves are in that 9 to 12 month category, where you guys are now at 16. So the takeaway message, your cash reserves are very healthy and you're right in where we would expect to see this in. Okay. So let's move on to the next page, page number 4. The top of page 4, slide number 7. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to begin a discussion on the city's general fund. And actually the next 2 slides will discuss the general fund. And auditors and those that evaluate governmental financials, we focus on the general fund for very good reason. Because really how goes the general fund goes the city. All right, that's where the predominance of your property taxes are collected. It's where the majority of your local government aid is received, and it's where most of your operating expenses reside as well. So if we can evaluate the general fund, it'll give us some really good ideas on how healthy is the city. So the information you see on this slide is described as the components of fund balance for your general fund. Okay, so when you guys hear me say fund balance or hear anyone talk about fund balance, what I want you to think about is net worth. It's a representation of the net worth for your general fund. Okay, so the city's general fund, your total net worth, your total fund balance is represented by the red series on that chart. Okay, so if I look at that, what you see there is some clear trends, right? So from 2021 all the way through to the end of 2024, you've had fund balance decreases year over year. There was a very nice increase, however, through the end of 2025. It's approximately $350,000. All right, there's several reasons why your net worth decreased like it did, a lot of which had to do with some budget overruns, some projects that the city undertook that weren't bonded for and that sort of thing. So it was expected to see that net worth decrease. What's very encouraging, however, is the way you were able to rebound. For the previous 2 years, so 24 and 25, you've had very good budgetary control. We'll take a look at that here momentarily. But at the end of 2025, the city's overall fund balance or overall net worth is $1.3 million. Okay, and as we look at that, there's some ways to decide how much should you have, and there's some recommendations out there. And matter of fact, the city has a policy about your fund balance. The city's policy is to maintain 31% of next year's budget in that fund balance category. Okay, I would argue that might be a little bit low. The state auditor has other recommendations, and they recommend cities should maintain 40 to 50% of next year's operating budget in your fund balance. I would argue that's probably even a little bit low. I would say 75% is probably the gold standard, and you may not be able to get there. As your expenditures grow, as your budget grows, it's difficult to maintain that level of reserve. But right now, so what I've done on the table at the bottom of slide number 7, that very first row, that fund balance percentage, I've done that math for you. Okay, so we can look at that and see where those fund balances or where your net worth is as it relates to your annual operating budget. So in 21, it was very good, 83%. Of course, over the next 3 years, it dipped down. You almost got close to where your minimum is on your city policy in 24. at 33%, and you rebounded nicely to 44%. So if the budget has the type of results, the general fund has the type of results that you saw in 25 here in 26, anticipate you're going to exceed that mark that the state auditor has recommended. Okay. If you move to the next page, or the next slide, excuse me, slide number 8, bottom of page 4. What we're going to look at here is a budget and actual statement for your general fund. This is your profit and loss statement. Okay, so we got columns for your budget, 25 actual numbers, and then variance against that budget. So let's just start right at the top there, that blue highlighted line, that revenues, that is money the city has brought in. You can see your budget, you can see actual, and you can see that variance. You guys are approximately $290,000 over budget. The predominant reason for that had to do with some local government aid that you received in excess of your budgeted amounts, as well as additional license and permits that were received this year that were basically under budget. Okay, and if you're going to go over budget, that's certainly where you want to do it, on the revenue side. As we move down this table, under the orange section, that's where your expenditures are. Okay, and we have a couple of categories of expenditures. That's how you spend the money that you receive. We have current and capital outlay. Current expenditures are really just operating costs. Think salaries, supplies, utilities, that sort of thing. Your capital outlay, of course, is exactly that. It's capital outlay, it's equipment. So if we look at your the line that represents total expenditures, let's take a look at that budget. Your budget is $2.8 million. Actual came out at nearly 2.9, with about a $57,000 variance there. Exceeded that budget, but that number is fairly small in relation to your overall budget. That's about 2% overage, and it is difficult to forecast as far out as is required. As I look at this, I think there is excellent budgetary control. And really, if we dig into the details why you went over budget, it has a lot to do with why you went over budget on your revenues. You had more permits issued, building permits, which of course requires you to pay your building inspector. And so as more activity happens in the city, you have other expenses. So it was fully offset by additional revenue, not a concern whatsoever. We come all the way at the bottom of that slide, the green highlighted section, change in fund balance. In my world, we don't say profit loss, we say change in fund balance, but that is what it is. It's profit and loss. We look at that middle column, the double underline. The city saw $348,000 increase for profit to your general fund. Very, very good. And that's exactly why you saw your fund balance increase on the other side. So the takeaway, the budget seemed to be working. You have excellent budgetary control, and the general fund is very healthy. Okay. So let's continue on here, page number 5. And what I'd like to do now is kind of pivot and talk about your business type activities. Okay. We use the term business type activities for a very important reason, because the activities we're going to talk about here momentarily, specifically your water, sewer, and municipal liquor store, are to be run like a business. They need to be autonomous. They need to be self-supporting. Okay. And they have to be profit motivated. So profit's important. We want to look at profit, make sure that you're seeing a profit annually. But there is something else there that you can miss if you only focus on your profit. All right. You do not, as a city, pay your bills with profit. You pay them with cash. There's an awful lot of adjustments. I already showed you. I did 24 journal entries this year, some of which change profit in those utility funds. But what we can adjust and what we can't change is the cash and investments you have in the bank. So I would ask management in the city to evaluate how well are you managing your cash balances. Okay, so there's a lot of numbers on this slide here, and it's quite busy. But let me walk the council through what I'd like you to focus on. So what you see here is a representation of the city's operating cash flow each of the previous 5 years for your water fund. Okay, so what I want you to focus on is that blue trend line. Your operating cash flow. Let me define that. So your operating cash flow is essentially the money that you put in the bank, you collect from your customers and pay all the bills that is required to deliver water to them. What's left? And what's left is what we call cash flow. Okay, so it's very important to evaluate cash flow because you have certain needs for those. You have debt service that's required to be paid. You have equipment purchases, and infrastructure improvements. So we need to think about how much cash do we need to generate to repay all of that was done in the past and everything that you're doing right now to improve those systems. So that blue trend line represents that number. So as I look at the water fund, you can see some very good stability. You have strong cash flows in the water, and really over the past 3 years, you've averaged, put in the bank, $1 million. Okay, that's very good, and you need that because annually, the water fund has debt service payments of $650,000. Already spoken for. You have to pay that amount. What that allows is that you've got about a $350,000 cushion in your cash balances, and you guys are using that to replace your infrastructure. You're using it to purchase equipment and things like that. So the takeaway for that water fund, very healthy. Those user rates that you were charging are adequate to continue to finance your operation, adequate for you to be able to repay your debt service. Okay. So if we move to the next slide, what we'll do here is we're going to talk about your sewer fund. So slide number 10 at the bottom of page 5. Very similar analysis. I want you to focus in on that blue trend line. Okay. So the sewer fund doesn't nearly generate as much cash as a water fund does, but the sewer fund doesn't have near the debt service requirement either. Okay. The sewer fund is annually spending about $165,000 on debt service. You don't really need that high of a user rate there. You know, so what I'm seeing here on this slide is you have good stability for 21, 2, and 3, and then you've seen a slight decrease ever since 2023. All right, and it's trending. You know, 1 year is an aberration, 2 years is a trend. Now we have 2 years of cash flow decreases, and really it's about $100,000 swing from 23 to the end of 24. So at the end, or excuse me, at the end of 25. At the end of 25, the sewer fund is generating free cash flow, money you put in the bank, about $395,000. Okay, on top of a debt service requirement of 165, which leaves you a cash cushion annually of about 230,000. Again, those utility rates are in good shape for the sewer fund, but I think it's worth monitoring kind of that reduction in your margin on an annual basis. So if it continues to go down, you may want to look and see what are some of the major causes for that. Okay. All right, so let's move to the next page, page number 6, slide 11. This is the last slide with any numbers on it, I promise. We're almost done here, and what we see now is again, the similar analysis, but this is for your municipal liquor store. And your liquor store has had some variable results over the years. So again, let's focus on that blue line. That's what you guys are putting in the bank after you pay all your bills. All right, so of course, the liquor store doesn't have a debt service requirement. But what the liquor store has been doing is you've been using some of those profits to offset budgetary concerns in other funds, specifically the general fund. Okay? So annually, that liquor store has been providing resources to the general fund. But as I look at that, you can see in 21 and 2, you had very strong cash flows. Things went sideways real fast in 23, but have since rebounded over the past 2 years. 24 and 25 have seen that trend get turned around. So your sales have increased, and actually your costs have gone down as well, which has contributed to some improved performance there. But at the end of 2025, free cash flow for that liquor store is about $175,000. And what that is allowing the city to do is to make those annual transfers between $100,000 and $150,000 annually. And I think over the previous 5 years, I have a note here, $855,000 have been moved out of that liquor store and has supported other departments and other activities of the city. Okay. But the takeaway is that liquor store is operating very well. Things are healthy. You've returned back to more profitability that you guys have come to expect over the previous years. Okay. Last slide here. I guess I do have some other numbers on this slide, but so this is your audit team for the year. Myself, Greg Burkhardt, I lead the audit effort. The other 3 smiling faces on that slide did most of the work. I get to come here and take all the credit. So, that's my one joke for the day. So I appreciate you guys laughing at that one. But I don't know if it comes through my presentation style, but I do enjoy this part of my job. Coming out here, boring you guys to death, talking about numbers. These are difficult concepts. There's a lot to consider here. You know, I stay in pretty close contact with Nicole and Marcy throughout the year. But I want to extend that opportunity and offer that guidance to the council as well. If there's anything that you feel like could be helpful or give you an unbiased, unvarnished opinion, I'd be very happy to. My phone number's up there. I do have a new email address, so please take note of that. We have recently merged with Carlson SB now, no longer Burkhart and Burkhart. And matter of fact, anyone on the audit team would be happy to assist if they're needing anything from us. All right, so that is everything that I had for you folks this evening. Happy to take your questions or follow-ups.
Any questions from Council for Greg?
I think we should thank Nicole and Marcy for a job well done.
Yeah, things have improved substantially. Those two are doing a really good job.
And whoever else is involved in this.
All right, thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right, you guys have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Oh, we'll move on, we'll move on to number 6, the consent item.
I'm gonna make a motion to consent items.
Motion by Mr. Swanson, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Palmer. Any further discussion?
Just one thing, the resignation of Robert Joyce. Are we going to get to see him? Is he going to invite him to a meeting so that we can thank him? Or is that possible? Or do we even have to wait to do that?
I will extend that invitation.
I would like to, I don't know about anybody else, but I think anytime we have an employee that's, I don't know, how long has he been with you, Jason?
I don't
Yeah,
know
okay.
the exact number.
I think it's
It-
7 or 8 is in my head.
It's somewhere in less than 10, I know that, but I didn't know how many years, but he's been a good employee and very loyal. So, yeah.
All right.
So, I would like to be, when, his resignation was effective when? 15th of,
Middle of next month.
does that meet our middle month meeting, or is that, what do we? Or do we need to have him come in on the first?
I will extend that to him. I cannot promise that he will.
Okay, no, I didn't, you know,
But I
an invitation, that's what I'm saying.
I can pass your meeting.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent items. Are there any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, we'll move then to item number 7.2 under old business, sewer rates update.
Just to update council, we should have their 4th data request done hopefully tomorrow or Friday. We'll get that off. Their attorney is asking for a month to review this data, and they've said that they'd like to meet with council and the city attorney because they are just, Ellers did a great job, I think, explaining how they got the rates and where that number has come up. And I think there's no arguing with that. They are concerned about what the definition of in the contract, the wastewater facility plant means. So,
Can I just ask, how would council be beneficial in defining that definition? Is that something for us to be involved in, or is that something for the lawyers to hash out?
because what I did was I sent the contracts to Chris Smith of the League of Minnesota. He is a contract attorney. And I have yet to find a time where our city attorney has disagreed with Mr. Smith's findings. So Mr. Smith said this clearly encompasses the entire wastewater facility. The townships are saying that it is just the ponds, but the contract uses the term wastewater facility. So they're requesting council and the city attorney
So
that
my thought would be, this is my opinion, that we issue a letter that in 60 days that we are no longer going to provide service if they don't like the terms that we have. I understand that there's not a valve and maybe we got to dig a hole and cap it out, but that would be my thought. The second component to this is I think that We should just look at annexing a big portion of it or set up the plan and annex all across Lake with the idea that we're gonna be providing water and paved roads and better police protection, better fire protection.
I think Jason did a great job at this meeting because, their argument was that the city residents are coming in at one point, so they should only pay for the pond. But Jason explained, they're all getting dumped into the same exact location. So the treatment of the sewer is starting at the same point for residents, township, residents. Every sewer user is starting at the same point. And so everything with the sewer facility is included, and that's how the contract was written.
If I may clarify, they do not have a pipe that dumps directly into our ponds. Their own pipe. They have a pipe that goes into our collection system, which is before our last lift station. So it is put into the same pipe that everybody else's sewerage is put into. Then we pump it up to our ponds. So no, it is not. I don't know where that argument really lies because Minnesota Pollution Control Agency defines that, not us. And their sewage is dumped into our collection system, not our pond. I don't really understand where their argument is.
Well, I don't know if there's a huge argument on a lot of that. I think there's a certain group of these people that really do understand it. I think what they're asking for is time to talk about it and to get together with the city and talk about it, whether it's just staff or whether it's staff and the council with their commissions or whatever you want to call it. They're not. I don't know if I think it can be resolved just with those talks. I don't think closing the door on them and saying we're going to shut the pipe off. I think the language has a lot to do with how you get along with people, and that's not gonna bring us a lot of favor of publicity. I think there's been a lot of mistakes made, and here we go in the history, old Dave in the history. 10 years ago, we should have been meeting on this every year, and we weren't. Shame on us. And now.
It required both parties to meet though, so I think there's shared blame.
I know there's shared blame, Marcy. I'm not dismissing that. I'm just saying, there's enough to go around for everybody as far as I'm concerned. And I think there's nothing wrong with talking.
What is the timeline though? Because this has gone on for 10 years. You've been talking to them for what, 6 months?
No,
2 years?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. So, I mean, are we going to extend it out for another 10 years?
We've already set our rates. And if they don't, if it comes to fruition where the rates are held like we say we're going to hold them, then they owe us some back pay and some fines and stuff.
But what's the deadline that we actually stand up for our residents and put our foot down? Are we just going to let them accrue late fees until the dawn of time?
Those will be assessed. So
that's taken care of.
Because I guess I will say that I understand the nuclear option of, well, just shut them off, because that's what, if I don't pay my bill, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
But the argument that I would have to that is, I think that harms a lot more people than the people that are making these decisions. And I don't want to try to throw anybody under the bus. I think there's some miscommunication and misunderstandings of what's, why this was being done and what the goal is. I don't want to shut anybody off if I think we can come to a reasonable conclusion and a reasonable goal. It's government. Everybody's going to do it. I mean, I hate to just say it's government. No one's ever going to get along all the time, but it's kind of we have the proof. We've shown our work on our homework. I'm not, and I guess I will say for myself, I'm not an expert in the sewer system or where the Pokegama Sewer District or Cross Lake Sewer District or Henriette dumps into our spend. That is not a question that I have the ability to answer. If having a conversation with these sewer groups, having them at a council meeting is going to make them happy and shows that we are serious about working with them and taking care of them, I'm all for that. But again, I will say, I am not the person that knows the legal jargon of where their effluent dumps into the sewer system. Like that's not my.
So what is your proposal that in the manner that we take care of them? Is it just to listen to them and then still implement the rates?
I think
Or
that's kind of what at a certain point in time, and I've said this from the beginning, we've already set the rate. So that's, I think we're past the point where I was in favor of ramping them, giving them a couple of years because it was a large increase, but that's not what we chose to do. And I stand behind our decision as a council to apply the rates that we apply. At a certain point in time, they've got to get paid. But I think we've got a couple committees that aren't agreeing with the City Council of Pine City, and I think taking that out on the residents of these communities is going to cause a heck of a lot more problems with health and safety than it is by just continuing to work with them.
were you elected by those people, or were you elected by the city of Pine City?
I was elected by the City of Pine City, but as a person, I have to look out for the well-being of our surrounding communities as well, being there using our facility.
So let's annex them and make them our residents.
Well, we
I think it's also important to point out here too that this is contractually driven. We spent tens of thousands of dollars to a professional company to have our information audited. This isn't a council threw a dart at a dartboard and said this is what we're going to do. This is a very strategic process that it took a long time for a reason, because it takes a long time through. The other point that I think that gets missed is that, like the city administrator said, there's 2 points of blame of fault here. Yes, it's our fault for a city for not reviewing these contracts for 10 years, but the townships have to review their contracts too. It's the exact same contract and they need to review it every year, and they didn't. Not a single one. And if they did, they never brought it to the city's attention. Because yes, there was a lot of turnover in the past, but maybe somebody from a township is doing a contract review and it triggers up for somebody that may be new in their position at the city say, oh, hey, we haven't been looking at it. And the other thing for me is that the city residents for the last 10 years, every year have been taking a sewer and water increase for every year for the last 10 years. So we as city residents have done our portion of paying the part that we need to. And it's coming down to the definition of a facility and a contract that's hanging us up. So I'm not opposed to talking, but it feels to me kind of like meeting fatigue, because there's nothing, in my opinion, as a council that we're going to be able to do. The rates are set. We can't alter contracts. We can suggest that we alter the contract, but the contracts are written the way they are and they have the words that they do. And again, I'm not opposed to having the meetings or discussing, but at the end of the day, this is a legal interpretation of 2 words that are defined by a state institution that we follow. So I don't know, me as a council member, what I'm going to be able to do to sway that one way or the other, because I'm not a lawyer. And that's where I'm kind of at.
I think this another important thing is public opinion. The public opinion is not going to be in our favor no matter what we do when this thing is all over. Well, just to hear me out. But what will help is getting out what actually happened through this whole process. And I thought we had, maybe we haven't done it effectively. The second, you talk about the increases our citizens have had, and we have had increases every year. They also have raised their rates out there 4 to 5 times. But you never heard, and I did hear from one of the residents out there that told me, well, how come Pine City's raising their rates so much? I said, we haven't raised them in 10 years. Well, they told us that's why they had to raise their rates. This is part of it. The citizens out there don't even know what's going on. And this is what we got to do, is we got to get that word out. We got to be able to tell people both sides of the story. Let them sort it out and decide who's right and who's wrong, whether there's a right and a wrong to this at all. Really, I don't think that's even the issue. But we are not going to do well in public opinion if we just put a cap on it. That is not the answer as far as I'm concerned.
So if you're going to kick the can down the road, what's the hard deadline that we come back and we have a definitive answer? Because I don't want to delay this out for another 10 years.
But I don't disagree with you. And I'll compromise and say we need to direct staff to set up a meeting to try to talk this out with a committee of the council. And I don't care if it's me or I don't care if it's you guys. It don't matter. But I think there has to be somebody in the council there, and we need to get then put a hard deadline this is the schedule we're gonna do. We're gonna talk today, we're gonna talk, we'll talk over, we'll let you take it back to your boards or whatever, and then we're gonna have a final this next time. We set some dates. If I think that's the fair way of doing it. And then I think you've exhausted everything you can exhaust. And, but what, I think we owe it to the people out there that are, like the mayor says, they're the innocent victims of this. I mean, they are.
When do you go to arbitration?
Ooh, well, and that's an option, but I don't think we need to do that. I think we all can talk.
Mediation.
Yeah, I don't think we'll even have to do that. I think there's a bunch of them there. I think they just don't want to hear the rhetoric of us gonna put a plug on things. We need to just dial that back. We need to be talking and not threatening. And that's, if you threaten somebody that you're gonna put a plug on the pipe, that's really asking for it. I mean, that's really that puts them, backs them in the corner. You know what, when you back somebody into the corner, what choices do they have but to come out swinging?
They're choosing to be in the corner. This is a
Okay,
choice.
well, that's an option that you say. I don't say that. I think of the conversations that I heard and some of the comments that I heard when we were at this meeting, and we were there simply for informational only. And they were pretty much, you know, they just want to talk. They want to be, they just feel that they haven't been talked to enough. I'm sorry, but I just think it'll work. I really do.
Fine. I will make the motion that we give them 30 days to review the material. Inside the 60-day window, they have an obligation to set up a time with the entire council and their attorney to sit down and listen to what they want to talk about. And if they fail to do that, we come back and we have a hard discussion on what we do.
Right. But and is that your motion you're saying?
That is my motion.
I'll second it for comments. And my comment is this: when they come back here, let's be sociable, because the comments I heard was they didn't like the reception they got here the last time. We need to be sociable people. We need to be.
Well, they've never been here, so I'm a little.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. There was a committee of them that were here.
I will make the motion that we give them 30 days to review the data request number 4 and the information. And inside 60 days from today, they have the obligation to set up a meeting with the entirety of the council, our city attorney, to sit down and have that discussion so we can listen to it.
I'm okay with that.
All right.
That's a little bit of a commitment.
Is this gonna be set up in like a special meeting or?
I think it has to.
Yeah.
All right.
We just love meetings. You know?
That's just it for me. I was elected to represent the citizens of Pine City. I this continual people want to talk because they don't like the result of what happened is a waste of time. That's just my opinion.
Well,
And I think initially it was the rates that were the issue. So we are gonna have an additional bill from Ellers to come and have this explained to them, which went great. They understand the rates, but now the new concern is the interpretation of the contract, which has been used from its inception.
The goalposts keep moving.
And this is how Ellers has always used to calculate their rates. So my concern is now we bring in the attorney to validate what our interpretation of what's next.
Well, that's the concern I have, is that after this meeting, I'm done with the negotiations, I'm done with the talks, in my opinion, because it seems like every single time there's a new goalpost, and it just keeps getting drug out longer and longer and longer, and it could be that they're holding out for new council that might be favorable, or they might be hoping that we just forget roster.
And we've been buried in data requests, so I just want to make that point too.
Oh.
Very overloading.
was there a change in their data request on the sewer people?
No, they did ask for an estimated price, so we sent that to them. And they had to just bring it to their council, and then they let us know that they accept that potential charge, and because until we got confirmation they would pay the estimated cost, we put the request on hold. So now we have confirmation and we're just finishing it up.
So they aren't disputing the data request cost?
No, they took it to their board to make sure it was approved.
Okay, well then that's good with me. I don't think, you know, if they say they want something, they should pay for it. If they're told what it might cost, yeah.
Although now you have me a little concerned that after, if they don't do anything within the 60 days, we haven't said if we are gonna have any kind of penalty after the 60 days if they fail to come to the table. So if
They're
they're
already
using,
they're
if
already
they're
getting-
using this as a reason to just keep delaying the process, do you want to set some teeth in it, or?
Well, they're already paying the penalties by not paying the amounts that they owe, so.
Well,
Are
they're
they,
paying
I mean, they're
penalties right
gonna
now,
be,
or
they're all gonna be assessed,
And then.
so they are already doing that. Yeah, so I mean, if they're,
They haven't paid them.
Yeah, but we get the opportunity to assess.
we will get it if they won't, but I don't think they'll have to do that.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor for 30 days for them to review the data request forms that are what the city is sending out or will be sending
We
out.
are hoping we'll have it ready on Friday.
And then 60 days from today, within 60 days from today, we would set up a meeting with all council and the district
And the city attorney as well.
and the city attorney.
So that could be sent out with the request, with that notification. Could that notification be sent out with what they're requesting for data? Or is that not the right time?
Send out to who?
To about this meeting? Well, getting
Oh,
them together.
absolutely, sure.
I mean, I would
You
think you give it
notify
at give them the information at the same time.
I guess if we're making the people aware of it, we should go one further and put it in the paper. So it's sent out to the
You know, I
public.
was kind of hoping we had a paper here, but I don't see it. But I think she looks at the view or the recording.
All right, we've got a motion, and a second on the floor, 30 days to review with meeting within 60 days with Pine City Council, all of council, city attorney, sewer districts. Dave was the second. Any further conversation? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next up, then we will move on to item number 7.3, examples of policies / ordinances for council vacancies.
That was just researched and added on here. You had mentioned you would just use it to look at, and then we don't have to do anything with it today, so you can review it.
How did, I guess, just a question, how did you come up with these towns? I mean, I read through all of them. There was some of them were short and sweet, some of them were long-winded.
There were a lot for larger cities, obviously, where they have a strong mayor and not a.
We have a strong mayor.
Well,
Did I make a proposal? I like this. I'm hoping that nobody's gonna resign before the end of the year. But, yeah, knock on wood. But would it make sense to put this on the agenda for the 2027 council so that they can decide? I feel like we're trying to come up with an option and kind of already appointed one position and you're leaving, and I just wonder if we should just clear the slate in 2027 and go that
I'm
direction.
fine with that. So I don't think the motion was as long as it was done before the end of Q1 27, so that gives 3 months.
It could be part of the organizational meeting in January. I mean, if you wanna, if we can direct staff to put that on the agenda for the organizational part, when we start picking committees or whoever's here picking committees.
Is it, the only thing I worry about is that a council at any point can decide to rewrite a policy. So if we come up with what we think is the greatest policy in the world, and the next council says that is a terrible policy and they just redid it, I don't know, that's a lot of time on staff to be occupied by that, but that's just my opinion.
Because there's really only two options, right? Like either you appoint the winner of the last election or you do it through an application process. And at least that's what I took away from reading through these 4 and the 6 other ones that I looked at.
I didn't see a lot of them say about, taking the highest vote. It was more a point by majority.
Right, but that's another option. I'm just saying, we
Well,
could
it's another
obviously
option we've done too.
Right, we could make our policy state, but any or all of the above, so.
That's good. Thank you.
Perfect. Everyone's okay with moving that off till the beginning of next year? Except for me, because I won't be here.
Wait a minute, here, that is right there.
Happy day.
All right, next up, we'll move along to new business. Item number 8.1, resolution 2026-35, accepting a donation from Blue Pine Works for Fall Fest.
What is Blue Pine Works? I just want to know. I am grateful, but
I believe, Brock, they were the company that helped remove the trees.
Yeah.
At
Oh,
315
okay.
Main.
They're a master arbor service that provides tree care and tree and plant health care to the area. So
okay, I didn't know who they were.
I'm a customer. They did really good work for me.
So I do want to thank Blue Pine Works for making that donation, and Brandon for that. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I make a motion to pass resolution 2026-35.
Right, I've got a motion from Dan. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second from Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none, as this is a resolution, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Adrian?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
And I will also vote yes, that motion carries. All right, next up, request for council action 2027 law enforcement Pine City Sheriff contract.
So I. The request for council action, maybe. Let me pull it back up. Sorry. So, we, as I stated before, we received the 2-year contract from the sheriff's office. Sheriff Nelson is retiring end of this year. So what, I'd like to propose to council is a few things. There were some language change. We, as council mentioned, I'd like to follow through with a 1-year contract to get the new sheriff situated. One thing they proposed was a 6% increase. The 3 cities are requesting that we do 4% increase in the rate. Restore language to identify the contract hours per day, not total per week. So one of the changes in the contract is it stated how many they're going to guarantee, and then they're including commuting time. So we've asked that that language be removed and actually go back to hours per day. Then there was some training and court time that would be counted towards our hours. We asked that that be removed. We'll remove the travel time. And remove the special event language. So there is a red line version attached, and that's what I'm looking for council to approve that for us, because there is a deadline. I believe it's September 15th.
Couple things. Did we find out if we, being a city, absolutely had to have a contracted service or provide a city police station?
We do not have to have it.
No, I did some digging too. It doesn't.
There's no, I couldn't find it.
However, there is a limitation to what the sheriff has to, what services the sheriff has to provide the city at that point.
There's also currently a limitation by only having certain hours. So my second concern, and this has been kind of becoming popular across the whole United States, is that seeing situations where ambulance services or first responders go to calls, it turns out that some of the individuals are maybe more dangerous than they should be. And are we putting those individuals at risk by not having a police escort out there? And so one of my thoughts would be to have that definitely if dispatch knows if there is a dangerous property that a deputy has to be on site. But I think of a lot of situations with car accidents, house fires, certain medicals, that we should be having a deputy present with every time, because what if we send personnel out there and they just get murdered because somebody's off of their medication or there's other things going on? So,
And I very much
I agree with that.
agree and respect what you're saying.
Is that happening now? Can you guarantee that's even happening now?
I can say that the one thing that I will say is we do need to remember that our sheriff's deputy force is around 30 deputies that patrol the entire county. So just keep that. I would love to say that every police deputy goes out with every.
My point is, if we're gonna have a contract where we're paying for additional services, that would be one of the services I think that we should be paying for. For sure inside city limits, outside city limits, I don't know.
And one thing we wanted to stress was that we appreciate our service. We're not questioning the service we're receiving. We think our deputies are wonderful. We do feel like 3 cities are subsidizing the county because it's not being spread across through the townships equally. So if you are a city resident, technically you're being charged through the county and through the city. So it is a significant extra burden to our residents.
And I will throw it out there. Just I've spent enough time doing the IT side of law enforcement to say that I have pretty good handle on costs and things. So a $260,000 contract for a year is a heck of a lot less than the $2.5 to $5 million we'd be paying a year for a police station. Just to put that in some perspective, and that is verifiable numbers that I can come up with and again show proof behind those numbers. So not that I'm against either option, but just you're essentially doubling our budget to add a police station.
Well, I don't think anybody's advocating starting a police station. I just think,
But
I mean, a fair contract is what I'm after.
I would kind of like a police station, but and I look at other things we do with inspections. I mean, Mr. Zemek and Ms. Pickett go out and they do inspections. Do we know that every property that they go to is a safe property?
I think we've had pretty good, at least in conversations I've had with Marcy, we have pretty good perspective. Either of them feels that they need a deputy with them that they call and someone will.
I think they have a good relationship with them.
Well, they're not sent out alone, are they? There's always 2.
Yes.
I'm not speaking for the city, I'm speaking for people that have talked to me over the last months and years. And in the community, at least to a lot of folks that I speak to, there is a lot of unhappiness with the service. There is a lot of unhappiness when you call and nobody comes. There's a lot of unhappiness when they call and they do come and they don't do anything. There's a lot of unhappiness with the ordinances not being enforced. There's a lot, I get a lot of unhappy with, we pay over $700 a day for additional law enforcement protection and services. And there's a lot of people in the community that do not feel that we are getting our value for that money. So maybe just for discussion or an idea, is it a good idea to maybe have the sheriff or some representation from the sheriff's office in a meeting with council so we can address what our expectations and concerns are?
So, good point, because the contract actually states, not even the current one, even the previous contract state that the sheriff is supposed to be attending a council meeting every year. So
One a year.
And I want to be very clear that I think our deputies, the deputies themselves and our sheriff does an absolutely amazing job for what they do. But I don't like having to pay extra for a service I don't know that we're necessarily getting. And we have hundreds of ordinances, it seems like. We try and come up with a new one every time about motorbikes and everything. And there's no way that we have to enforce that. And so, again, why do we have all these ordinances if we don't have any way to enforce them? So I'm certainly not opposed to looking at a police station. I know that would be an in-town police service. I know that'd be very expensive, and it goes back to my argument about annexing territory and providing a better police protection service. But having a contract and not getting what I feel is the value out of that contract is a really hard sell for me to drop 230 some thousand or whatever, 260. Especially when we start talking about all the other services that we have to provide. And I'm guessing that every single staff member right here has been told to sharpen their pencils and start crossing off things off of the budget items. And again, those are services that we have to provide to the taxpayers as well. So
Do we have time to meet all of our deadlines if we have the sheriff, we invite the sheriff to the next meeting or a representative?
Are you wanting to approve the 1-year request, or are you looking to not move forward with this?
I'll make the motion that we approve the 1 year. I think it makes sense. I think the new sheriff, asking for a 2-year, I mean, the new sheriff coming in, he's gonna have to take care of things eventually, and I don't see where this is. And second of all, there's one of the candidates is the undersheriff. So if that person would happen to win, he should know what's going on. I don't think it's gonna be a big change for him. So I think, get a 1 year, and if they want to come back to the table, come and say this isn't gonna work or we won't do it. I mean, whatever you want to do. But I don't think we're alone. Hinkley and Sandstone feel the same way we do.
They just propose this, we propose all.
Yeah.
We're uniform in our proposals to our
Yeah,
council, sorry.
you said that, right, that they're all telling you the
That's
same
good.
thing. And they're having just as much trouble. They don't feel they're getting anything for their money too, or what they feel is fair for their money. I don't think it's anything. I think we're all getting some out of it. But I can tell you in the last 4 years that I've been on the council, when I've called and, when somebody's tearing up and down the streets on a motorcycle and not, just raising all kinds of cane, and I never even get a call back. And I haven't in 4 years. So as far as I'm concerned, we aren't getting any service, but that's just, they don't have to call you right away. They could call you the next day, or they.
We've called and they
Yeah.
come right away. I have not ever had a problem.
You're alone then.
If
2
you
hours.
want
been there in 2 hours.
So I want to add a stipulation that, to accept the 1 year, but have the sheriff.
He's welcome to come. He wants to come and talk to us about it. But I think we need to back our other towns. We're all feeling the same, so I think we need to back them. And I'm saying we go with a 1 year contract with the terms that are redlined in there. And they all make sense because they're basically trying to dictate every facet of what goes on. And I don't understand why someone that's paying $260,000 can't have something to say about the service they're getting. And we virtually have nothing to say about it.
I am curious, we're talking about a fire district, we talk about a police district, those
Joint powers agreements can include anything, Kyle. So you're 100% right by saying that, but I have heard no talk about that on any informational meetings on the fire end of it. Nobody said anything
I
about
think it was
that.
about 2 years ago, Sandstone hired their own RSO,
Community service officer.
CSO, Community Service Officer.
Yeah, I trained her for as far as fire inspection, but she did a great
Oh,
job.
no, this is someone different.
That's not
That's someone
Serena. It was somebody different they hired.
Right.
Okay. Well, it was about 2 years ago when I worked for them.
Trina wasn't the CSO.
Okay,
Motion.
we have a motion on the floor to approve the 1 year contract red line as written. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Adrian. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
like me and Mr. Swanson said.
All right, next up, we'll move on to item number 8.3, discussion on road construction project.
It just kind of crossed my mind as I was going through some notes that it's August and we're in budget season. And in the end of 2024, it was decided to take 25 off from road reconstruction projects. And I don't think we have anything in 26. Is it time for us to consult the comprehensive plan and maybe try to get a road reconstruction project back in the hopper and ready to go for 27?
yes.
The initial request from Ellers and Burkhart had been to take at least a 2-year break from
Right.
bonding.
Okay.
So 2 to 3, they even said 3.
So
So no.
I think we got some expenses coming.
Jason, go.
So I did meet with Greg today. I had sat down with a meeting with him asking about reconstructions because I was asked for no big projects with reconstructions next year. So I asked him, what do we need to do? What plans have you had in the past for reconstructions? And me and him sat down and talked whether we need to be televising certain areas, what in looking at the maps that have been assessed. And we kind of came up with a game plan for the direction we want to move. And we're going to readdress this at the beginning of the next summer about what we need to do, have prepping for the following year of reconstruction.
Did he mention, anything about the 4th Street grant? That if he had heard back from that or not?
He did, so they did not get that one.
Okay.
But it is coming up again for resubmitting. I made a couple suggestions that we could add because it was more a grant for what was his wording? It was like more community, and I brought up just the idea of, well, possibly that trail that we've been working on. Would that be possible adding into that? Would it hurt us? Would it benefit us adding that in? We did bring that up, and their team is going to be resubmitting that before the deadline.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I ask, do we have any mill and overlay projects planned for 2027?
No, not that I know of right now.
Okay, and is that an item that we're planning on carrying in the budget like we have historically, or?
No, we kind of put that out
Okay,
next year.
gotcha.
We'll pick that back up. We're gonna do as much little projects as we can. Like we've been fixing up storm sewers and whatnot, and some of the small oddball jobs that have been kind of brushed under the rug, we're taking care of a lot of those. We're going to continue taking care of a lot of those next summer, and then hopefully be prepared for reconstruct the next year.
I've seen a lot of white paint around, and I very much can say that I appreciate the what you've done to 8th Street and 3rd Avenue there, because there was getting to a point where there was no pavement in that intersection, and then it looks like an actual intersection again. So I can say I appreciate the work you're doing. I know our residents appreciate the work that's.
How are we doing on hydrants?
Hydrants. So I met with rural. We went through and flushed hydrants this spring. I had my employee go through and make a list of every single hydrant that had an issue. We brought up all those hydrants to rural water, who will come out and do the work for free, but we pay for the parts. So we are going through, we gave him the list. He's accumulating the parts that he needs to come out and do this project. He's going to train a couple of our employees while he's working. And then we're going to come up with a new list of ones that he wasn't able to fix. Then we're going to replace, we have in the budget to replace 4, I believe.
Right.
So we're going to replace as many as we can with that updated list.
So that money's still there, the budget for the replacement.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what.
So a thought for road reconstruction then, and this is just a thought, kind of me thinking out loud more than anything. If we're looking at this time next year roughly to start looking at projects, would it behoove us to begin to try to find alternate sources of funding where maybe we're able to do like some of our neighboring towns have done and do a large swath of infrastructure improvement with maybe some additional funding from grants from the federal or state government? Or would it behoove us just to focus on one street at a time?
That is
Just the thought.
so that was if we kind of continue on our current schedule where we're doing one street every 2 to 4 years, you're not going to fix some streets that are terrible now by the time I'm no longer here physically. So I don't know. I think something needs to be done. I think we've got a lot of infrastructure that is aging rapidly and seems to be aging more and more rapidly as time goes on, like things typically do. I won't be here, but I would recommend that if you can do, like I was surprised in my neighborhood when we did 10th Street and then part of 2nd. I was surprised that we didn't finish off the rest of the block a little bit here and a little bit there. Well, I don't think it would have cost a whole lot more to the total project. But now it's a half of a project here and a half of a project here and a quarter of a project here that could have So when someone's here, we can maybe piecemeal it together. That would be great. But I just wouldn't have been the way I guess I would have done it. But I'm not an engineer, just like I'm not a lawyer.
So if we're gonna consider the possibility of grants, is waiting until next summer the best time, or should we bump that timeline up? Because it seems like every time there's government funding or grants, it's usually start of the year when those deadlines start closing.
So Nicole actually just got me involved with the league, and I just became a member for viewing their grants, open grants. They kind of compose a lot of grants that are for our departments and whatnot, and then you can see them. And so I'm on a weekly update sheet now for the grants that are available. That's one direction. And no, I don't plan on trying to get the reconstruct planned around this time next year. I'm really hoping to see what kind of grants I can do over the winter, depending on how flooded we are with snow, and getting the plan going in the spring instead of late summer. So
Good, that's good.
So tell me about our obligations when it comes to the Highway 61 bridge at,
So we
by the coal plant, and then how does that affect Third Street? With where all the sewer is going to have to go across eventually when they do the other side, and then we'll have to make sure we have the capacity to go to the new lift station by Cheline Park there.
And I guess just for clarification, are we still talking about roads, or are we talking about full blown infrastructure? Because
We're going to be obligated to help with that bridge. We know that. We have no choice. We're going to have some expenses there, and then also we have to be able to get our sewage across the river. So if we're gonna have to are we gonna do temporary lines going down to that substation, or how are we gonna do that?
I'm guessing that's all engineered out
Yeah,
already.
but there's some money involved there. That's what I'm saying. We got to plan for that too. So if we don't plan for that, how can we plan for any? That's going to be something we have to take care of. So how can we plan for anything beyond that?
That would come out of the sewer fund because it's infrastructure improvement.
I think Greg had said
If
at
there's
one
money.
point in time, was that the spring? When he presented on this is the one he came with the pictures of the lights and the pictures, things like that. That
Was pushed back a year. We knew that.
I suspect if we want to have that discussion, we set that up for an actual special meeting with Mr. Anderson. I think we could speculate all day long right now.
Right.
Not gonna
That's why I'm trying to find out what the answer.
we had chatted about something, or we had chatted about the project this spring, but again, okay. Any other discussion on potential road projects? Hearing none, we'll move on to discussion on crosswalks and vulnerable roadways.
This is a two-parter. I know there have been some conversations between the county and staff about potentially adding some new crosswalks in on Third Street over there. I'm wondering if we ever got anywhere with that, because I know crosswalks were painted and there was nothing that was done by the village and the new apartments in Lakeside. There's one crosswalk that crosses from Minpack to the Minpack parking lot. And that is the only crosswalk that's available all the way up past Robinson Park.
And that's a county road.
There's been talks for the last couple of years about trying to get some additional ones. I'm just curious if got the okay or not.
I'll be honest with you, that one kind of did fall off the wagon a little bit and didn't really get addressed much after that, because it was discussed that was county road. Granted, there was some sections across the city roads we could work on, but I am sorry that one got dropped behind. I'm sorry.
Good. But don't be, no need to apologize. And I hear from a lot of vulnerable roadway users. We've had some projects in town lately that have taken out panels of sidewalk or taken out panels of roadway, and they're just left, right? And they're just left with dirt. They're not filled with cold patch. They're not temporarily patched. And I've had a number of people who rely on mobility chairs and have walkers and canes that they're having a very difficult time getting around parts of our city because they don't have an accessible way to get there. Because if you're in a wheelchair, there's no place on some of these sidewalks where the panels have been ripped out for them to go into the roadway. There's no signage on the roadway to let anybody know that there's any construction going on. So I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if that's a Rum River inspection thing. I don't know if that's a city staff monitoring those types of things, but I've gotten a lot of feedback that it's been really hard for certain folks to get around.
You know where?
Well, by the Dairy Queen was one of the biggest complaints I had because they put the water in and tore out a section of sidewalk and it sat.
You mean the new Dairy Queen?
Yeah. And then when they cut in the ingress egress up the hill, that took out the sidewalk and they cut the roadway at the same time so they could do the asphalt. So there's literally no place for people to go. So,
I think they also had signs in Collins right down the sidewalk, blocking most of the sidewalk too for a long time. I got a lot of calls on that one. I have mixed opinions on sidewalks, especially through residential. But in the areas that we do have sidewalks and we have good sidewalks, I always get nervous about cutting open panels for a good sidewalk. And then, yeah, how long does it sit open? And what are we doing to communicate that to the residents? Because a lot of people don't know until they go and fall into the hole or stumble over the gravel. There's a lot of people that watch Facebook, like more than the newspaper sometimes. I think we do have to communicate when that stuff gets opened up and make sure that there is a timeline on when that's going to get closed, because people need to be able to make accommodations to navigate those areas.
or if it's a matter of policy, because in a lot of places where we do work, like it's very clear, like if you take out a panel of sidewalk to do any work, at the end of the day, it has to be restored and be able to be traveled over. And a lot of times that's cold patch. And a lot of the times the next day you're in there and you really ain't get out the cold patch to do work. And at the end of the day, you got to put new cold patch down. But I don't know if it says it in our policy or in our inspection. I just kind of wanted to bring it up more as like a conversation piece, that there are a number of people in our community where a bump in the sidewalk, or if like for instance, there was one of the approach ramps when you go down the sidewalk, the little like indentation where it's stuck up, and somebody, it sounds silly, but they're blind and they have a cane and they can't see that, or they feel it with and so just the restoration and ongoing mobility.
I add to that and say that something that I always thought was a little bit annoying and never really put a whole lot of thought into it until I had a child and pushed them around in the stroller. It shocks me the number of non-ramped sidewalks in this community that you cannot, some of them have ramps, and the ramps, there's a gap between the pavement so that you're just cutting up. We end up walking down the middle of the street because it's easier than using the sidewalks. And I know I'm on Third Ave. That road has needed reconstruction for 20 years. But I would love to have some conversations around maybe there's grant funding available for upgrading those to get those dips or those hands to be to a place where, like, there's houses on my street that if you were in a wheelchair, unless you're going up and down your driveway, you're not going to be able to get the sidewalk because you're going to come to a cliff.
It used to be that we set aside money for sidewalk repair and new sidewalks in the budget. Did we cut that out, or do we still have?
No, it's still there. Still there.
So is that something that we could look at for a project for those items? Because it seems like we've always kind of used that as a slush fund at some point.
Yeah. The problem is that sidewalk is now like $90 a linear foot to put in.
There's a little bit of a simpler solution to a lot of that. If you look at how our bike lane has worked out, the one that I thought we needed, and I'm glad we got it. And I think there was a few people that thought that, this is a goofy idea. But if you look at the people that use that, and most of them that are pushing strollers and stuff go right down that lane. What's wrong with doing that all over? Anybody that travels and get to any of the suburbs or any of the bigger towns, they're everywhere. These bike lanes are on every street. What is wrong with taking one side of the street and doing just like we did downtown?
I don't love our bike lane. Yeah. After living with it for 2 years, I will say that I was very much on board in the beginning. My personal opinion, I think it's terrible.
Nobody uses it.
I think it should have been a sidewalk or just
Oh,
not marked at all.
Every time I drive down that.
There's a ledge too, so if you're riding your bike, you hit that ledge, you're gonna tip over.
I live on 10th Street, guys. I see a lot of people using it all the time.
People
Sure, there's people that don't like it, but I see it's being used all the time. So if it's being used here in a lot of other cities, it must obviously work a little bit. And maybe we need to improve some of these ledges, Adrian. I don't know what ledge you're talking about, but I'd be happy to have you show me. But I see where it's been a good addition, I think, and it's a lot cheaper than sidewalks.
I don't love that we're putting our vulnerable people in the middle of the roadway. That's just
They're not in the middle.
With no
Right,
enforcement.
right.
With no enforcement.
with no enforcement. And yeah, I think that's a conversation for a different day, and maybe there's a fix to it, but it's proved to be something that's not super stellar.
And again, just discussion points that I thought as I was going through some notes, I'm like, oh yeah, this.
Oh, the ones that called me about the Dairy Queen, I said, there is a bus, take the bus, it's fairly cheap until they get this situated. And this work is done by our staff, not by Rum River. Right away stuff is done by the city. Am I right? I think I'm right on that. Okay.
Sounds like a lot of council members got called about that sidewalk.
Well, they did, but and everybody's gonna do that. And I think these contractors sometimes, oh, well, it's just another hole they're digging and then they run into problems. And then of course they dug the hole, then they had to wait for the irrigation guys to come. I mean, I've seen the whole process. I mean, it's.
Jason, did you have something that you're gonna talk about?
Yeah, if I could just backtrack a little bit. Just for instance, there wasn't a whole lot in wording when I started. I met up with Tabitha in Rum River and we were coming up with what our end of the inspections is actually like in writing. So we started with water and sewer connections and we're in the middle of creating documents and getting that set up. So that way there's paper, I can show a contractor exactly what we're expecting from them. We haven't gotten to the sidewalks and the blacktop and whatnot yet. As for Dairy Queen, that's on me. I did not get out to them as much as I should have. I'm learning my role and I'm taking on a lot. I am sorry. In the future, I do hope to get on that more. We did threaten to shut him down multiple times, and every time we did, he would get it taken care of. And that was after I gave him 1 or 2 warnings. So yes, I was out there. They just were not cooperating great. But as soon as we made that threat, they would take care of it. So yes, that is on me, and I will try to do a better job on that.
I hope by no means, I'm not.
Nope, that's okay.
Criticizing your performance. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
I'm aware of what I did. It's okay.
Discussion points.
I'm aware of what I did, and that's okay. As for the couple openings, I know the one in front of the school, we fixed that infrastructure underneath, and we bought the concrete. We're planning on concreting that pad here before the end of the week. As for, there's another one up on the 61 as you're going up towards the light as you're going south. That one is county, and I don't know the backstory on it, but I can reach out to them and see if they can get that one taken care of. As for like ped ramps and whatnot, I would have no problem if we were to, I would ask that maybe I could take some time to try and analyze what we're doing, but we're right in the middle of budget, so it'd be really hard for me to come up with a number for that right now. And I also got a bid on Pizza Pub, getting that taken care of. And I got 3 bids for that, and I got the lowest bid, and we're working on getting that approved, and that's within my budget. I know that's, in my opinion, the worst, one of the worst chunks of sidewalk in town.
That's bad.
And some of the most traveled too.
Yeah.
So I am planning on having that done before fall.
Good.
So, not to put the devil's advocate, but I know that at one point we looked at to see if sidewalk repair replacement was at the city's cost or was it at the property's cost? And did we determine that the city is just gonna replace that, or? And I only asked that because we talked about that for like a year and a half at Public Works.
So I asked the owner of Pizza Pub if he would go 50-50 before I even got any bids, just because I said, I don't know if I don't have that much in my budget. After I got 1 bid, I would have needed 50% for me to help. The second bid, I would have only needed a quarter of his help. And this last one, I think I can cover without his help. Granted, this is up to you guys. what you guys did, if you guys are gonna make direction for that, but I didn't know that was a rule. I was planning on just paying this because it's in my budget. If there is some direction that I need to know, I would like to know it.
I'm just from my personal opinion, if this is the route we're gonna go with, I'm totally fine with it. But we just gotta be consistent across the board. So I don't wanna say that we're picking and choosing where we're doing it. And if we're gonna take on that expenditure, we're probably gonna have to come up with some kind of plan on replacement. Because somebody who does have a sidewalk, maybe they're the only one, and it's in a rough state of affairs, they're probably gonna be asking questions. How come this hasn't come to me yet? So
That's something that maybe Public Works and ordinance / planning could take a look at and kind of come up, but if we don't have a plan, come up with a plan to.
I thought the way I understood, we thought commercial would be taken care of. The downtown areas, everybody uses.
That was the business district. That's why I thought it was a
Business,
heavy use
business
traffic.
district, we said we would take care of.
I think we should look at consistency. I don't.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think that's what we decided on that. The residential area, if it's, they're going down the street and doing all the streets, it's just part of a street reconstruction. But I don't.
There's some residential sidewalks that are in rough state of affairs too.
Right. The residents living there are the only ones who use them. That's why we got the system.
All right, anything else for 8.4? And we'll move on to item number 9.1. Thank you, Jason. 9.1 Fire District Work Session.
This was just asked to, I believe, be continued on the agenda.
And I'll speak to it because I'm the person that pushed hard for this. And again, I think I want to do this. I don't know if anybody wants to join me. I'd love to sit down and dissect the whole process. I was at most of it, except when my heart stopped a couple times, I couldn't be there. Well, that's okay. Well, now I'm back and I'm in the saddle, and I'm gonna look at this. I'm gonna try to figure out if we gained anything from it that was beneficial to our city or our fire department. And I'd like to put out some kind of a report, and that's my commitment. If anybody wants to join me, fine. If you don't, I'll do it myself.
Well, if you're gonna investigate fire improvements, you're gonna need council approval for the investigation, for our code of conduct. But do those parties that are involved, they're involved with the fire district meetings as well, correct? Yeah, I mean, is that a place that we bring it back and have the discussion if you want to go at committee level? Do we want to do it at a council level? We're going into budget season. And so I'm guessing if everybody's sharpening their pencils, I don't know that we're gonna have a lot of time to add it to this budget. But I understand, I know you don't want to delay it, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to make those promises before we get our budget set. If we're gonna make any kind of commitments to it. Financially, sorry.
Can you send out I don't know that I have the final copy. Maybe that was sent out in the email, but can that get sent out and maybe
It was sent out, but it's a large document.
It's
You
very
better,
large.
you'd want them to print it off where your printer out.
I think it was even sent through a link, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah, it's like 111 pages, and then each appendices is like
Yeah.
another
I
15
didn't think I
pages.
received. Maybe I did. I can look back through too, but I would need some time to refresh my memory because again, I've lived 17 lives since the last time I looked at that document. So.
And this is about the study that was done. This isn't
township.
a fire district study with sandstone and complete.
No,
This is the township.
this is a town.
This is just us reviewing, my understanding was this is just us reviewing the actual study to see if there was anything beneficial for the city of Lansing.
This is their study. This is the whole document.
Didn't we do that and set goals that we wanted to
We
achieve
were-
for our own fire service?
No,
The special meeting that we had already?
we looked at it. The council decided that we would no longer want to be a part of this, and we voted not to participate anymore. And that's as far as it went. Dan.
But I thought we set 5 goals that many things that we were trying to pull out for our own fire service, and we were going to move forward with those goals.
Well, I'd like to see that note because I don't have it, I think.
I do remember
I think we talked about goals that were in there,
I mean,
but I don't think we ever got around to actually setting a work session for it.
we were supposed to go out as a committee, the committee people, and I was one of them. We were supposed to go out to that meeting, and this was what was gonna be talked about at that meeting. And, but I was directed that, we weren't gonna participate anymore. And all I did was go out there and read what the council said their decision was. I read nothing more. I already read it to you guys, what I said. I know you weren't very happy with that, but that's just exactly what I did. And I didn't think I did anything that I thought was too ethically wrong. I just reported what the council said. And they, at the time, were gonna spend time going through this, but they decided it wasn't worth it then.
But yeah, I think there's been time and energy invested into this. I don't want to meet just for the sake of meeting, but I think that if we can meet and have some discussions, I'm all on board to make our fire department as efficient and as awesome as it can be, for lack of a better term. But
I like the idea of setting goals. If we can set goals right now of things that we want, maybe 5 key points. I think that would help keep us in bounds. Like you said, Dave, that thing could take a bullet and probably stop it. Realistically, the powers that are participating in it probably have their own goals. And I think that's what we should use those goals and our goals to kind of define it. Because if we're going to go through every single page by page, we could probably find items that we want to do. But realistically, it might not make sense.
Well, I think you're 100% right on that. But I think, you know, the expertise that we got with our fire chief and the time that I spent going through this stuff, every part of it. And you were at a couple meetings. I don't know how many you were at, but while I was gone there for a while. But I watched everything and read everything, so I don't think I lost too much time. And I've got just about everything in there that I think is important to even talk about highlighted, which would probably take an hour, maybe 2. I don't think we're talking a whole lot of time here. I think the main points we can come out with pretty fast. Because there was a lot of, you know, what this gentleman that we hired missed on this. And I'm not going to ask our chief to elaborate on it, but I think the answer would be that there was a lot of misinformation. There was a lot of correct information, but there was a lot of correction that had to be done by us. And what I mean is by staff and by anybody involved. And I think it's pretty easy to see that the advantage was for everybody else but us at some point, you know. So
here's my question. I mean, do we want to try and set up a full council meeting with all the parties involved? I don't think we would resolve anything immediately. What I'm wondering is if we come up with the items or our goals, even throw out a quorum meeting for the fire committee if we want to. But if we ask those individuals to bring their goals, I think we probably already hashed out the fact that operational control and just handing out a bunch of money really isn't something that we're entertaining. So if we give them a realistic expectation, if there is a service that they want to see, bring those. But if their expectation is that they're going to come and have authority all of a sudden, or expect that the city of Pine City is going to kick in 40% more on top of what they already have, that's probably not going to be something that we're going to entertain or listen to. So I want to have a productive meeting. I don't want it just to dissolve into back and forth and not get anywhere with it. Is that a possibility? Or
For me, the study is admittedly subjective information, and it's hard for me to make concrete decisions on subjective information. And as a council, as a city, throughout the process, we submitted objective, fact-based information to be inserted into the study, and it wasn't. And the final result is more subjective than it wasn't. So for me, it's hard to use that information to make any sort of good decisions, because in my opinion, it's not good information because it's subjective.
and that might be the findings that you come with, about 15 minutes worth of conversation about it. I don't think there's a lot of time that needs to be spent on this, but because I think I've spent the time, and I think Tom spent the time. I know you've read it, Dan, and I don't know how many of the rest of you've read it.
I was at some of those meetings too.
Yeah, you were at some of those
Close
meetings.
attention and just got more subjective as the process went on.
Right, so I think we all pretty much got our minds made up, but I just think that, we're just they're just walking away with a bad taste in their mouth. Do they deserve it? I don't know. I mean,
So if we put those items to the committee, we're not necessarily having a special council meeting just to accommodate it. They've always had their ability to voice their concerns in those committee meetings. But if that's where the committee sat there and outlined what their goals were, the committee could bring those back to the council for discussion if the council wants to entertain that. I have a lot of concerns with the study. I also have a lot of concerns with just setting up special meetings to go through the study again. Like you said, it's very subjective, but there might be things that some of the townships or other entities, cities that want to bring up. Maybe they saw something that they liked in the township. Maybe their question is that they want to have a service center that they pay for and we staff, and they want to know if we can do it. Sure, let's talk about it. But I just want realistic expectations. If they're going to bring it back to the committee and just argue hard that we need to go with the study, then I guess I'm going to probably walk out the door. But I just want to have some realistic parameters on it, and so we're not getting off into the weeds.
So your goal idea is what we should do then.
What?
Your goal idea, to have goals.
I like Mr. Swanson's idea of having 5 goals. And maybe we can set those goals right now if we know them, or if we want to wait on them and let the committee come up with 5 goals.
We said, got 5 more.
I can't.
I don't even know that I can remember that saying that.
Yeah, I know I remember talking about it, but I don't remember.
But I also don't want to turn the committee meeting into like a 6-hour discussion. So I'm guessing that's probably coming up in September.
Maybe we need to wait until people find their past 5 goals.
I was gonna say, can we
move
push
on.
this to the next meeting and
Yeah,
Bring it
Bring
from
your.
and try to find your 5 goals.
perfect, yeah. All right, is everybody in agreement that we can just,
I mean, I got some stuff written down, but I'm not sure that's the goals that I was figuring. Maybe I have here. I just don't remember it. Get to be 71, going on 72. Sometimes you forget it.
okay, any other discussion on fire district work session?
Has there been any more meetings, between the south, the Hinckley, Sandstone, Pine City, while we're talking about fire?
We had one that we updated council on, and then we're taking about a 2-month break for everyone to get their budgets.
Gotcha.
So we're meeting back up Halloween, or is it the day before Halloween? It's like October 30th, I think is our next.
Thank you.
Tom's gonna dress up as a fireman.
We'll bring our
See
little.
if you get treats.
All right, moving right along then, council concerns, any council member?
I have one. And it started with the start of this meeting, which is Meadow Park. I'd like to see that come back for discussion. I like parks. I just want to put some constraints on it if we're going to accept it, if that's the direction we go. We've seen other locations where we've been giving a park with a lot of restrictions on it, and I want to be careful that we don't get into the same kind of constrictions, if that makes sense. So I don't want to see it go away. I think it's very valuable to figure it out, because I think a lot of people probably are using it for a park. We need to get that sorted out, or we need to get it back on the tax roll if it's not ours. So, but I want to make sure that we're all clear on what kind of covenants or agreements or easements or restrictions or 100-year plans are.
You should know what you're walking into.
Yeah. I have one concern. Sure. This is to Tom Miller. I looked at your budget for next year, and when I see the firemen are getting paid $12.88 per hour when they are out of bed at 4 a.m. with 40 below zero. And I think that you should increase that to 15 when you're doing your budget. I know that they get a minimum of 2 hours, but 2 hours would be $30. and they're risking their life at 40 below zero to go to some chimney fire. And I think you're paying, I know they volunteer, but I also think that they should be paid a reasonable, more than $12.88 an hour.
We've talked about that, Adrian, we kind of, we look at the budget, we see what we can squeeze and make sure we got everything else covered that we need to get covered. I think when you're so far behind, it's hard to just say, I'm gonna take it all at one time because, we want to be able to cover our costs. That's the.
I know, but I just think,
Well, when I started, it was $2 for a whole fire, so I mean,
I know they're volunteer, but I wouldn't crawl out of bed for $12.88 when it's 40 below zero.
Can I just say for the record, so I don't get myself into trouble, for full disclaimer, that I have to abstain from all comments and any action or
Well,
anything on this.
I know
item.
this is my first debut,
I just mean.
but
for
I just think,
abstain.
So Nicole,
I don't believe that you're wrong, Adrian. I'll just say it this way, it's been over the years and, we used to only get paid $10 a call, no matter if it lasted an hour or 15 days.
Yes.
When Dave was down, probably $5, $4 or $5.
It's been 2 days.
well, times have changed.
No, I don't, and.
Times have changed
It
and
has been gradually coming up,
Yeah.
and I actually on my budget have to pencil in not quite to 15. I don't,
so Nicole and I went to a Day to Unite today, which is the Minnesota Government Financial Officers Association.
Yeah.
So we went to that meeting today. It probably had 6 different neighboring cities. It's a great meeting. It's annual. I wish it was more than that. And one of the cities brought how they are implementing pretty significant increases because they too are at a lower level with their firefighters, and they're doing, because they want to have it within, what they say, 3 or 4 years, they want to have the firefighters up to 20. So they're implementing that.
that's just my little opinion because I'm kind of a numbers person. So when I looked at your numbers and we divided it out, Nicole helped me, which thank you, you're amazing. These guys are doing a great job.
And women.
I'm being inclusive.
Guys is it's not inclusive. Men and women.
The guys and gals should get a minimum of $15 an hour for the 2-hour minimum call. That's all I'm gonna say.
You, all right, are there any other council members? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to the mayor's report. Thank you, Marcy and Nicole and all city staff for what was proven to be a good audit result today. We very much appreciate it, and just wanted to again say welcome, Adrian, to our fund. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
We start for tonight.